Welcome to the Bloomin' Well podcast. I'm your host, Dr. McKenzy, a functional wellness chiropractor specializing in gut, brain, and hormone health. Join me as we explore natural methods for health and wellness, focusing on regulating your nervous system, nurturing your gut-brain axis, exploring the mind-body connection, and getting to the root cause of your chronic illness. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1, Signs of Chronic Inflammation and Natural Solutions. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing what is inflammation and how is it problematic, what are common signs of inflammation, and what can I do to actually reduce inflammation naturally. So, before we dive into the signs and the ways to reduce these levels of inflammation naturally, I want to start with what inflammation actually is, because not a lot of people understand what inflammation is at its core. So inflammation is actually a natural stress response that is activated within the body in order to protect our body inside and out from some type of stress or threat that it is facing. This is a good thing, right? We need this to protect us. What happens with chronic inflammation is the stress goes on for too long. So taking it a step back, there's different types of stress that actually trigger this inflammatory response within the body. I personally like to split it into 3 different types of stress. You have your toxins, your traumas, and your thoughts. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme detail on these 3 because this could be a whole episode in and of itself, but your traumas are going to be physical traumas. So like think broken bones, surgeries that you've had in the past. Maybe you've had things removed, like your gallbladder's been removed or your tonsils have been removed. Those can be classified as physical traumas. Your toxins are going to be things that are either in your body or on your body or around your body that are affecting it negatively. Do you have clean air? Do you have access to clean water? What does your food quality look like? What are the chemicals and the products that you're putting on your hair, on your skin? What cleaning products are you using around your home? Things like that are going to be more of your toxins. Your thoughts are going to be what your mindset is. What does that internal chatter, that internal dialogue sound like? Is it more negative? Is it more positive? How do you view yourself? How do you view life? So all 3 of these facets, your toxins, traumas, and thoughts, are different types of stress that can be applied to the body, that can be applied to the nervous system, and ultimately cause inflammation. There's research that shows when you think something negatively, even if you're thinking back to a traumatic experience, it causes a stress response in the body, and that stress response triggers inflammation. Now, naturally, when stress occurs and that inflammatory response happens, it's on a feedback loop. And so the brain starts to sense that the threat is no longer around and it dials down that inflammatory response. Well, what happens in chronic inflammation is that response never gets turned off or turned down. The body is constantly in this fight or flight mode, constantly scanning for threats in the environment and always on edge. And it's leading to these hormones being elevated consistently and inflammatory levels being elevated consistently. So in a healthy inflammatory response, your body will send out certain cells and certain chemicals throughout the body that are actually responsible for healing those damaged tissues, for killing off any pathogens, any bacteria, anything that is in or on the body that is trying to harm it at that moment. So the inflammatory response is very beneficial when it is working properly. Another thing to keep in mind with inflammation is there's 2 types. We have acute inflammation, which is short term. You can think like a paper cut. And chronic inflammation, which is more long-term. So diabetes is a type of chronic inflammation. It's a chronic inflammatory disease. You can also think of arthritis as a chronic inflammatory disease. Unfortunately, in its earlier stages, chronic inflammation can be difficult to detect. It's really important to know how to detect and reduce inflammation levels, especially with a chronic illness. Because if you're leaving chronic inflammation unchecked and just letting it go, this can lead to autoimmune conditions, metabolic conditions, cardiovascular disease, things like diabetes and obesity, and can make your body more stressed and more ill and physically impact you. And it can really limit your quality of life. So what are some common signs of chronic inflammation? Aches and pains anywhere in the body, anywhere on the body. Fatigue, tiredness, difficulty sleeping, either difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. You might have trouble falling asleep at night, but you might sleep really well once you have finally fallen asleep. Or with inflammation, you might have difficulty staying asleep. So you might be waking up every couple of hours or waking up specifically at 3 to 4 a.m. There are also several cognitive issues that can appear with chronic inflammation. So things like memory issues, trouble recalling why you walked into a room or what you were just about to do a few moments ago. Maybe you have issues with focusing or staying on task, or maybe you jump from task to task within 30 seconds to a couple of minutes, and you just feel really scatterbrained all of the time. That could very well be inflammation. Emotionally, you may be having mood swings, or anxiety and depression are also very common with chronic levels of inflammation. Your body doesn't feel good. It doesn't necessarily know why it doesn't feel good, but it just doesn't feel good, and that can really impact your mood. With chronic inflammation, you may also have digestive issues like bloating, chronic constipation, or diarrhea. You might have heartburn frequently, maybe even nausea at certain times of the day repeatedly. Like some people might have it in the mornings, some people might have it at night before bed, or even in between meals. Chronic inflammation can make it very difficult to lose weight because when you have chronic inflammation, it's triggering that stress response over and over and over again, which means it's triggering the hormones that are associated with that stress response, like cortisol. And cortisol causes your body to retain belly fat so that it can have protection and extra stores of energy in case of an emergency situation. So now we know what inflammation is and we understand what it looks like, what some of the common symptoms are when we have chronic systemic inflammation. But how do you reduce inflammatory levels naturally? So one of the simplest ways that you can reduce inflammation throughout your body is to change your diet. And there's so many different ways that you can change your diet, change the way that you eat. And I personally recommend doing this on an individualized basis and meeting with your doctor, meeting with a functional wellness physician or a naturopath or some type of nutritionist so that you're able to really individualize your diet for you. Because someone may be allergic to a food and they don't know it, and it may be causing more inflammation in the body, and they might have to temporarily remove that while they're trying to allow their body to heal. In general, if you want to reduce inflammation, changing your diet includes eating more fiber, avoiding those processed foods, avoiding sugar, avoiding high salt content, making sure that you're avoiding a lot of chemical additives and food dyes and preservatives that are going to really boost and amplify that inflammation process in the body. Because our bodies don't know how to process those things. And when our body doesn't know how to process these foreign ingredients, it decides to fight them. It tries to kill them off because it sees it as a threat, which is where you get so much inflammation in the body. As we try to avoid these ingredients that are not good for us, it's really important to also start incorporating foods that help to reduce those inflammatory levels. So anything with antioxidants, rainbow colored vegetables. So think your red, orange, and yellow and green bell peppers. Think about your tomatoes, your grapes, your berries, anything that has color to it. Bring a lot of color into your diet and you're going to be getting those antioxidants and those phytonutrients that are really good for limiting inflammation within the body. Another tip when changing your diet is to increase fat. And I mean healthy fat, quality fat like your omega-3s, your fatty fishes, your avocados, things that are going to reduce inflammatory omega-6. So you can do this by taking an omega-3 supplement, which I do have linked through the website. Another way that you can reduce inflammatory levels is to build your tolerance to stress. Now, stress is one of those things that we cannot avoid. None of us are going to escape it. It is something that happens every single day in our lives. But the thing is, every time we experience any piece of stress, even if it's small and minuscule, our body is going to respond to that stress. So when we're in a chronic inflammatory state, our body is going to be more sensitive to stress, whether it's the food that we eat, the conversations that we're having, the stress at work, our family stress, our monetary stress. We're going to be more sensitive to it. So the more that you can build your tolerance to stress, the more room you're going to have, the higher that threshold is going to be. And it's going to give your body room to heal. And it's going to give your body room to recover. Another way to reduce your stress levels is to prioritize sleep. If you're on a night shift, getting off that night shift may not be what you want to hear, but it could be something that significantly impacts your hormone levels, your inflammation levels, and your overall health. That includes if you're just hanging out with friends in the middle of the night, or playing video games, or watching movies really late into the night. Trying to establish a good sleep routine, a healthy sleep routine, and getting 7 to 9 hours each night can significantly regulate your hormone levels and reduce those inflammation levels so that your body's able to repair and heal and recover at night. The next tip for reducing levels of inflammation is to incorporate gentle exercise. This is gentle exercise, slow exercise, something that's easy on the body. Think yoga or Pilates or walking, swimming, maybe even like a stationary bike. These are not going to raise inflammatory levels temporarily. Heavy lifting, CrossFit, and HIIT exercises are great if you're already pretty healthy, but if your body is very stressed, struggling with chronic inflammation, they may not be the best for your body and may actually do more harm than good in the long run. Another way to reduce inflammatory levels is to supplement with anti-inflammatories. So there's natural supplements that you can take like curcumin, vitamin C, omega-3, prebiotics and probiotics, and even magnesium, which can help to reduce inflammatory levels. I don't recommend changing anything in your lifestyle or your routine, especially supplements and minerals and vitamins, unless you are working with a practitioner, some type of doctor who can really assess your blood work and your lifestyle and your body for any changes that may need to be addressed promptly. So if you're taking all of these steps to start reducing chronic levels of inflammation, how do you even know that it's working? How do you even know the inflammatory levels are reducing? You can always have blood work done and check your CRP levels, which is C-reactive protein. It's a pretty generic marker for inflammation levels, so it's not really going to tell you much other than, hey, there's inflammation in the body. But there are other ways that you can listen to your body and know that the inflammation is becoming more regulated and the inflammatory levels are coming down. Think back to the main markers of inflammation. We have pain, redness, heat, and swelling. Those things are going to get better. The intensity of the pain may lessen, or the frequency may lessen. Over time, both should improve as well. So any fatigue levels should improve. If you're having gut issues, those should improve. If you're having mood issues, those should improve, like anxiety and depression. Now, this isn't to say that just improving your inflammation levels will fix these issues, right? If chronic levels of inflammation are the root cause of these issues, you will see those resolve if you resolve the chronic levels of inflammation. This is why it's really important to work with a functional practitioner like myself so that we can run tests. We can run the functional lab tests and get to the root cause of your chronic inflammation, get to the root cause of your depression, your anxiety, your fatigue, your hormone imbalances, all of it, right? Because when we get to the root cause, then you can start to recover. That is how you improve your quality of life. The more you can lower these levels of chronic inflammation, the more you can lower your risk for chronic illness and chronic disease. So while you're making these changes, try to make sure and make slow, simple changes. Don't make a lot of quick changes. You might not stick to them. Your body may react negatively if you throw too much at it at one time, because it's also, change is stress too, right? Change can be a form of stress. So try to focus on progress and not perfection. Don't beat yourself up if you are experiencing adjustment periods, if you're experiencing setbacks and flare-ups. Gradually make those changes that are beneficial for your body and beneficial for those high inflammatory levels, and you're going to slowly become more functional, less inflamed, and improve your own quality of life. Remember, if you are looking for support on your chronic illness journey, you're wanting to get functional lab testing done, you can schedule a free discovery call with me on my website, drmckenzybrewer.com, drmckenzybrewer.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Bloomin' Well podcast. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, happy healing and keep bloomin' well.